Hey everyone, welcome to another Yesshift installment of the little sub-series Steven's Venue Adventures. So for this episode, I'm here to recap and review the ProgJect show that I saw this past Friday night after Dad and I recorded our fourth anniversary Yesshift show, and Travis Larson also opened for ProgJect. So I saw them at Alvas Showroom in San Pedro. So I'll be talking all about that. It was an incredible concert. I have a lot to say, but first, there's a bit of sad news that came out this morning and really was a surprise to both me and Dad. Um, so yeah, we got the news that Dave Cousins, founder of Strawbs, passed away. I'm reading the announcement here on the Strawbs site. It is with profound sadness that we have to announce the passing of David Joseph Cousins at the Pilgrim's Hospice in Canterbury, peacefully following a long illness. Today, Sunday, 13th of July, 2025. We will all wish to celebrate the life of this incredible singer, songwriter, relation, colleague, and our special friend at this time. We therefore ask you to enjoy listening to your favorite cousin's song as the sun goes down in whatever part of the world you are, enjoying what he would refer to as a glass of Vino Collapse wine. As more information becomes available, you'll be informed on his and Straub's Facebook pages and on Straub's web. Meanwhile, we ask you to join in remembering a wonderful, talented man whose life has touched us all. And yeah, this was a real shock. Dad and I had Dave on our show 2 years ago, 2 years ago this month, even, I believe, talking about the new Strawbs album at the time, the magic of it all. And it was a great conversation. He was very kind and generous with his time. Wanted to have him on again, but just, like this happens. And yeah, it's just a reminder that we don't know when we're going to lose, and not just one of these legendary musicians, but just someone we know or just anyone. And it's always a shock whenever it happens. And I even saw that there's a so I even saw an article earlier where Michael Sadler of Saga talked about his his family's he been deal you know he has family members who've had cancer, and he mentioned that he has cancer that's incurable, but he's being introspective about it, and he's gonna, still do what he can with the time that he has. So it really is a reminder that, like, we just need to do what we can with our life and also celebrate the people that we've known or who've come before us. And yeah, music really helps with that. It's one of those forms of art that people get creative with and put their heart into it, and they leave it behind when they're gone, and we're still able to enjoy it and remember them. So yeah, very heavy stuff. Um yeah. All right. Yeah, I was just making sure the audio is coming through okay. But with that, there's no organic segue from that, really. I did see that Oliver Wakeman posted. He said, "Very sad to hear about the passing of Dave Cousins today. I really enjoyed touring, recording, and writing with Dave during my tenure with the Strawbs. I'll write more soon when I've had time to collate my thoughts, but they were very happy days indeed." And he shared a photo of the lineup at the time, back in 2009. So yeah, if you have any memories of Dave, feel free to share him, and be sure to listen to something that he was on, favorite Strawbs track, and yeah, like definitely missed. All right, so now onto the again, it always feels weird segueing from it feels like a bit of mood whiplash talking about someone who has passed that we miss, and then talking about this other thing that happened that's very different mood. But continuing on, this past Friday, July 11th, I went to Alvas Showroom in San Pedro. It's this small venue, this little, I guess it might be a two-story building, but the interior is um, not super small, but if the interior is intimate, I guess you could say. It's not like a huge theater, or really, like, it's maybe a bit smaller than a theater. I took a few pictures of um, like, not really the building, but the outside window. This was after the show. I'll go ahead and show that. So you got, yeah, it's Alvas Showroom, and then you also got one with the flyer. I would just get rid of these other tabs. All right, share screen. So this shows the ProgJect flyer on the window, and I'll show a clearer version straight from the site that has those, the lineup and whatnot. And I did, not supposed to do flash photography, so I only, I didn't want to like mess up. So in between sets, between Travis Larson's set and the ProgJect set, I took a picture of the setup. And, again, I didn't want to disrupt anything, but there's drums. You can kind of see the keyboard, bit of the guitar there. And yeah, the attendance was pretty much almost all older people. There was, I think, someone brought their preteen with them. It was kind of interesting because I was thinking to myself, oh, it's kind of around that age when I was exploring more of the discographies of all these different prog rock bands. But yeah, so the set, the opening act was Travis Larson of the Travis Larson Band. I arrived at the venue a few minutes late, so I missed out on the opening piece, which is the new exhibit, and it's from the latest album from apparently 2 years ago now, just going off the copyright date, from Travis Larson Band. And I wasn't very familiar with Travis Larson, but yeah, he's the one in the middle of this picture here, and that's the album there. And I do have the CD, which I acquired, which I'll show in a moment after talking about the set. But yeah, he played a guitar, electric guitar, and uh, there was other audio playing. Uh, they had the audio of the drumming and bass and all this other stuff from the, I believe, the original um, recordings, but the electric guitar stuff was live. He was playing that live while all the other stuff was playing, because he didn't have a band with him. It was just him. So he had to have those other tracks in the background while he played his guitar. But yeah, when I arrived, I almost every seat was filled, or maybe only two or a few seats that weren't filled, so I had to sit in the very back row, but it was a pretty good place to hear the sound. And so Travis Larson, like I said, he began with the new exhibit, but when I arrived there, he had finished playing that track. And these are all instrumental tracks. So he introduced the next piece, Behind the Age. And I really appreciated that he said the names of each of these tracks before playing them, because whenever I go to a concert or even watch a concert live stream, if I don't recognize the song, I really want to know the title. And, I think every concert should normalize, saying the name of the track before they play it. But yeah, Behind the Age, it sounded really cool. Um, and after that, he played a cover of People Get Ready. And I remembered hearing a different version of that classic track, maybe during high school or something like that. I don't remember who it was that was in that cover that I saw, but yeah, he played People Get Ready. And before he put it, he talked about Jeff Beck being an influence on him. And he talked about being friends with Steve Lukather. And People Get Ready. Yeah, like I recognized, even though it had been many years since I'd heard that song, I recognized the notes pretty well, and the way that they came off of his guitar felt very emotional. Just the way it would echo in this room, and it was I really enjoyed his take on it. Then he talked about the next piece after that and how he kind of he talked about. Oh, I see Miguel Bass chiming in saying Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart. It was okay. I remember on the cover version I heard a while back, there was at least one female vocalist, but again, I don't remember what cover it was that I saw. I remember it was like a YouTube video or something. So the next piece, Travis talked about how he sort of tried imagining, like, what if Mike Keneally, who's part of ProgJect, what if he played in Dixie Dregs or something like that. And he said that the piece that he was about to play is called Grud, and he doesn't know what the word means, but that's just how it sounds like to him. But as I don't know what the right word for it is, as unassuming as the track title is, it sounded great. It was very expertly played. And then the next track he played was called Dream Catcher. And the way he described it beforehand is how, like, it starts off like a tranquil dream, then goes into kind of a nightmare before coming back to being, more calm. And it was incredible. I didn't really get the nightmarish vibe that he described, but we each perceive things differently. So maybe to him, like in his ears, like maybe part of it he imagines it being, nightmarish in his mind's eye or something. But yeah, it was very cool. And then he concluded with a piece titled Attention Deficit Disorder, and it was a strong way to end the set. And after he performed, there was maybe a 10 or 15-minute intermission. So I went to the uh, what's it called, the lobby or whatever, where he had his table and he had all his merch. He had CDs and maybe a couple different DVD releases. um, I told him that his set was great, and I asked if there was a piece before Behind the Age that I missed, and he said, yeah, it was the new exhibit. And um, he talked about the CD and how it's like the newest release. And so I went ahead and bought that CD. So here it is, and he was able to sign it. I don't know if I gave like a good view of it, but yeah. And it's how the inside looks. You open it up a little bit more, and there's the CD in the middle. I gave that a listen last night. So the tracks on this CD are the new exhibit and then Tricks Are for Kids, Clown Town, Kaima, Isle of Sky, Red Giant, Majority Rules, which happens to also be the name of a game that we play over at Drum Talk TV Brilliance. So we have our game shows that happen each month, and once a month it's Majority Rules. We have another one happening July 22nd, 6 p.m. Pacific. Um, and anyone can join, so check that out. And then Grud, so that was one of the tracks I played at this concert. The Golden West and Will to Wait. And it says produced by Travis Larson and Jennifer Young. And there's a website, travislarsonband.com. And you can see all the stuff available there. And yeah, I gave this a listen, really enjoyed it. I think it'll take more listens for me to be able to tell which track is which. Like, it takes me longer for that sort of thing when it comes to instrumental tracks. Whereas with tracks that have lyrics, it's a bit easier. And my dog is like moving stuff around. I don't know if people can hear him, but yeah, Travis Larson, nice guy, and glad I got the CD. So after that, I went back to where I was sitting in the back row and was ready to hear ProgJect. So for those unfamiliar with the people involved in this project, haha, you got Mike Keneally on guitar and backing vocals, and he's played with Frank Zappa, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and Devin Townsend. Ryo Okumoto was on keyboards. He's played with Spock's Beard, Phil Collins. Apparently he's played with Chris Squire, but I don't remember off the top of my head where that might have been. Maybe it was a live thing. But he's also was a member of Asia featuring John Payne in the mid 2010s. And also, sidetrack, I saw news earlier today that Francis Dunnery has joined Asia featuring John Payne as the guitarist. And their album Aviana is in the works, according to that announcement. So, yeah, it's been a long road, long history for Asia featuring John Payne. But yeah, very curious to see how that turns out. But then we have Pete Griffin on bass, and he also does guitar, keys, and vocals. He has played with Zappa Plays Zappa, Edgar Winter, and Deathlock. And of course, we have Jonathan Mover, the drummer from GTR, as well as, has worked with Marillion, Aretha Franklin, Alice Cooper, Joe Satriani, Mike Oldfield, and The Tubes. And, I guess I still need to... I'll show the lineup picture right here. And it also has a bit of the tour dates. So, yeah, they play classics from all these different bands. So that's like, 10 bands right there. See, Genesis, yes, King Crimson, ELP, Pink Floyd, Rush, Kansas, UK, Gentle Giant, Jethro Tull, and more. I don't know what the and more refers to. I think these are all the bands that they played music from. But hey, maybe at different shows they've played stuff by other prog rock bands as well. But yeah, these are the tour dates for the current leg. So San Pedro, Alvas Showroom. I keep not knowing if Alvas is supposed to have an apostrophe or not. I see different things online. But anyway, so the set list, and I should preface this by saying, the vocalist Alessandro, he's Italian, and his voice, while he does not sound exactly like any of the vocalists in the original versions of any of these songs, like he does not sound like he's trying to emulate them, he still has like the perfect singing voice to convey the spirit of each of these different bands' music, going between the different modes. And, again, like gonna sound exactly like he's not gonna sound like John Anderson. He's not gonna sound exactly like Greg Lake or anything like that. But just the way that he sings, he has such great showmanship, and he would talk with the audience in between, when introducing each of the different band music pieces. And they really got a cool guy singing these tunes. Um, and Dad chiming in saying, "I thought he did Peter Gabriel's voice great on the Genesis medley." Yeah, there's like a clip online of the Genesis stuff, and yeah, it's really cool. You can also go on ProgJect's site, and there are clips from past shows where they've played stuff that I think there were a couple things that weren't at this show. Like apparently, at a previous point, they played Siberian Khatru, um, and a couple other things from other bands. But yeah, so talking about the set list. I wrote this down on my phone. So they really started this with a bang, with a yeah, starting with Hoedown from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and then that went into Carnival 9, First Impression. So, and I was so animated during this set. Like I said, there are lots of older people at this show, um, but and I'm 30. I get really tired on various days of the week, and to the point where I feel very aware that I'm like getting older and sort of feeling like I'm old, even though I really am not. But this concert, I really felt animated, and like I was bobbing my head to the point where my neck was hurting after a while, and like tapping my foot, and just like, yeah. And again, it's just one of those reminders that there's, you know life can be short, but there's also life to live. So yeah, it was just one of those things. um but yeah, they did just the first impression of Carnival 9, because if they did second and third impression, then they wouldn't have had time for a lot of this other cool stuff. Um, and so after that, they played a bit of Jethro Tull. I think they might have begun with Teacher, and then that segued into Aqualung. So again, that's like one of the possibly the most popular Jethro Tull song, I believe. Um, I see Dad chiming in saying you're way too young to get tired on any given day. Um, but yeah, I feel like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I don't know how popular Hoedown is among like casual rock fans, but Carnival 9 is definitely a bit more, I guess you could say, obscure when it comes to casual rock fans. It's something that all the prog rock fans probably know. So I guess in this set list, you do have a mix between the hits that some would know and maybe the more proggy, but not too deep cut things, if that makes sense. So after the Jethro Tull part of the show, they played a Gentle Giant song, and this was Cogs. So I feel like that's probably like maybe the like I don't know. I feel like all these other prog rock bands, maybe people know better, whereas Gentle Giant, they definitely made their mark within prog rock, but are a bit more of like a hidden gem to some of the more casual listeners. So yeah, it was really cool that they were able to have Cogs in there. And I mean, we've talked to Derek Schulman and John Weathers, so it's yeah, it's kind of weird hearing the music and knowing that we've talked to some of these people, but also these are like other people playing the music and doing it expertly. So like all these guys on stage were really animated. Um, and Dad is chiming in again saying, I don't think casual rock fans would go to a show like that. Yeah, this show was definitely more for the prog rock aficionados. And so after Cogs, they did a Rush medley. So that for sure included, and again, I'm like wearing my Rush Roll the Bones shirt. That for sure included Closer to the Heart, Free Will, and Analog Kid, but I feel like there might have been like maybe one or two other pieces that were part of the medley as well. And is is kind of a sobering thing, like sort of making me think, huh, I thought I knew Rush so well, but I guess I need to brush up on the discography again, because there are still some songs, like as big of a fan of Rush as I am, there's still some songs where I might not remember the title right away just from hearing it. And then after that, they played, shifting the mood from, all the fast paced stuff to just slowing down a bit for this beautiful take on Kansas's Dust in the Wind. And he had Mike Keneally doing the backing vocals on that too, and it just sounded so beautiful. So yeah, that was one of the more popular tracks at this thing, but hey, they did it really well. Then next, Alessandro was saying, "Now this next piece, like even the walls know it," and so that made me think they were gonna play something from Pink Floyd's The Wall, like maybe another Brick in the Wall Part Two or something. But they ended up playing. They started with Money, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I mean I know it's one of Pink Floyd's most popular songs, and it's from Dark Side of the Moon, which is my favorite Pink Floyd album. That might sound like a very normie take there, but having listened to all their albums, it is my favorite. But Money is my least favorite track on the album. So it and they were playing it really well, but I kept thinking to myself, why play that one? They could have played something else. But much to my relief, it segued into Time. A bit odd, given Time comes before Money in on the album. But yeah, they played some of Money, and they uh, began when they went into Time. They didn't do the instrumental intro, but they just went in starting with the first vocal part of the song, taking away, that part. So that was cool. And then after that, they introduced the, Alessandro was saying, now this next medley is by a band with an even shorter name. And at that point, I knew it was going to be Yes, and it was. So I thought to myself, okay, they've played hits, they've played uh, maybe slightly deeper than hit, but not super deep cut things. So it's probably going to be a roundabout, right? Like I should set my expectations, just think it's expected to be a roundabout, or I've seen All Good People. Like that's what it's going to be, right? And then they start playing 5% for nothing. And it was just so out of left field, so unexpected. But they nailed it. And, I do remember that Yahoo stream footage of when Yes played 5% for nothing back in 2014. And, they're going to try it again later this year for their Fragile tour. But I remember in that particular 2014 clip, it felt a bit odd and quirky, and like I don't know, it just felt kind of a little bit awkward. But here, ProgJect really nailed it. It was like really on point. And then that segued into Roundabout. So I thought to myself, oh, okay, they are playing Roundabout. 5% for nothing was just the intro. Because I should probably clarify that before this part, I don't think they said it was going to be a medley. I think they just said we're going to play something from a band with a shorter name. But yeah, so I was pretty much expecting them to play just all of Roundabout, and that would be it. Um, but as they were playing it, I kept thinking to myself, okay, so are they going to do the full version of Roundabout, or are they going to do that abridged version that cuts out the middle part that Dad and I kind of raise our eyebrows at in certain Yes iterations of that? Um, but before, like, it pretty much went up to before the middle section. They didn't go into the along the drifting cloud section because they segued into another song, which is Heart of the Sunrise. And so it's like, oh, okay, so are they ending with are they just doing that bit of roundabout but sandwiching it between instrumental bits like 5% for Nothing and the beginning of Heart of the Sunrise? But no, they just kept playing the instrumental bit and then going into the singing for Harder of the Sunrise. They didn't play the whole song, but they played a good chunk of it, and then that segued. It felt like the song, like the performance ended, uh, like it got quiet for a moment, and then Mike Keneally on his guitar was like, do 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 do, and there's this interplay between him and Ryo. So it's like, okay, they're gonna play long distance run around, but what's that gonna lead to? Is that gonna lead into the Fish like we're used to, or is it gonna be like the ABWH version where it ends with them singing to 100 and then maybe going into a drum solo? But they'd already done like the Heart of the Sunrise bit, so it would have had to be different from that drum solo that incorporates that in the ABWH tour. But yeah, they played all of Long Distance Runaround, and then um, and so by this point, I'm thinking, okay, so this whole thing is a fragile medley, but then they ended with an instrumental bit of Perpetual Change, um, like it went on for like maybe 2 minutes or something like that, and it was just it was so cool how this medley really kept me on my toes as a Yes fan. But I was also thinking to myself, thinking about the medleys that Yes have done, and Circa's medley as well. But I was also thinking about when Yes did their Tales from Topographic Oceans medley back in 2023, and how we the fans would have preferred the full pieces or a couple of the full pieces, but I'd rather have the medley than not have it, if only because when Yes did that, they played bits of the Remembering that they hadn't played in forever. But it did make me sort of think to myself, what makes this fragile medley different from that Tales medley in terms of enjoyment? Because with the Tales medley, there's kind of a like, well, I kind of wish that they had done this, whereas and there are some things that were a bit surprising, I guess, in terms of like, okay, which bits of Tales are they gonna include? So I kept wondering to myself, what is it that makes this fragile? Um, well, it's not fragile medley because it has Perpetual Change, like I said, but what is it that makes Project's medley a little more effective for me, huh? So now it's just a kind of a neat thing to think about. Then after that, they played, Alessandro was saying, so we're in the Bruford era of things, so we're gonna go into UK, and they played In the Dead of Night, and then after that, Rendezvous 602. So you don't need like the whole band for that. So, but they have the whole band for In the Dead of Night. Um, and yeah, like UK, like they only had 2 albums, but really made a mark in prog rock. So it was cool that they really gave the tip of the hat to UK. And then came the Genesis medley. So they began with Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and uh and I had to, like, later on, like yesterday, I needed help from Dad, being like, what's the Genesis song where it goes like this, and trying to figure out like what it is. So I think we figured out that one of the other songs in this medley was back in the NYC, New York City, and the other one, which I knew Firth of Fifth was part of this, but I got confirmation from Dad that the part I was thinking of was also from Firth of Fifth. There might have been 1 or 2 other pieces in it. I'm not sure, but or maybe that's all of them. I don't know, but they did such a great job with the material from that era of Genesis, and so then they leave the stage, the audience is applauding, and then they come back and you knew we were gonna come back, right? Like that's always the thing with concerts. Like they always leave the stage, but they're gonna come back. Um and like I don't know why it's still a thing, but they said, all right, there's one band that we haven't represented here yet. It's King Crimson. Um and so they went into I gotta make sure I have the song title worded correctly. Uh but yeah, it was 70s era King Crimson. Um yeah, they did One More Red Nightmare for sure. Um and then that went into 21st Century Schizoid Man. You know, arguably one of the earliest prog rock songs, if not, people debate like where exactly did prog rock actually start, and before that there's proto prog where it's actually getting there. But I think a lot of people would say In the Court of the Crimson King, that album might be the first prog rock album. I mean, who cares what the first one was? It's just a super important album. 21st Century Schizoid Man is such a remarkable piece. He even influenced Yes on Heart of the Sunrise. So yeah, this concert really left me feeling like jazzed and energized. I was really impressed with how they honored these bands and the material, and it really shows that we love these. A lot of these bands are no longer active, and there are a couple of them that are still active, even if there are maybe not many classic members or original members. It's mostly new members, but those are still valid, and bands that play this music without anyone who's been in any of these bands, like the way they play the music is valid as well. It just so cool. So yeah, like after for the encore, I kind of wasn't sure if King Crimson would be the last area. There was a little part of me that wondered if they would maybe end with Asia's like Heat of the Moment or something. But no, like this whole thing was mostly 70s, a bit of 80s in the Rush medley. But yeah, I was impressed. So, bravo ProgJect. If anyone's able to see any of their concerts, I highly recommend them. And after the show, before I start heading back home, I talked with a few of the guys who were also in attendance there. We were talking a bit about the set list. So it's really cool being able to talk to uh, people you've never met before, but you're all familiar with at least some of the music. Again, these are all different prog rock bands, so you might have people who are mainly familiar with just a couple of bands or maybe all of them. And yeah, it's just, it felt like being at home, this concert. So yeah, I'm really glad that I went, and is such a great experience. So yeah, that's yeah, again, great concert. And tonight, like I mentioned before, I'm seeing Stickmen. Tony Levin apparently was ill, so he couldn't make it to these baked potato shows. Um, so I'm seeing them tonight, and someone is subbing for Tony Levin, but I'm still going to enjoy the show. And again, really hope Tony gets better. I wish you well, Tony. But yeah, this will be my second time at the Baked Potato after I saw Soft Machine last summer. So I don't know, maybe this will be like an annual tradition or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'll watch that show and report back tomorrow, which is Monday, July 14th. I think I'm going to aim for a 1 p.m. Pacific broadcast time. But until then, follow Yesshift at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube. You can email us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. And check out our 4-year anniversary show if you haven't already. It's on the channel, on the feed, and what have you. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and see you all soon.